Welcome to 5 Minute History, where every week we tell you interesting things from history in about 5 minutes. And now, here is your host, Wayne Armstrong.
Hi guys, welcome to 5 Minute History, Episode 3, The History of Nintendo. Today, when people think of Nintendo, the first things that come to mind are consoles such as the Wii and the Switch. Maybe popular video games come to mind also, such as Super Mario, The Legend of Zelda, and of course Pokemon. However, the Nintendo company came into being way before the electronic age that spawned such pleasurable pastimes. In fact, it began life in 1889 as a playing card company founded by Fusajiro Yamauchi. Based in Kyoto, the small company made Hanafuda cards, playing cards that were used for a variety of different games. Each set of cards was carefully handcrafted, and they became popular. During the early 20th century, it was custom for the father to pass down responsibility for the running of a business to his son. However, Yamauchi had only daughters, and so lacked a son to inherit the business. He overcame this problem by adopting one of his sons-in-law, Sekiro Yamauchi, who took over the business after Yamauchi Sr.'s retirement. Sekiro Yamauchi agreed to a merger with another company in 1933, and the resulting company was renamed Yamauchi Nintendo & Company. To distribute the Hanafuda cards along with the other cards the company produced, he established a separate company in 1947 called the Marufuku Company. He too only had daughters, so his grandson, Hiroshi Yamauchi, inherited leadership of the company in 1949. This fourth-generation Yamauchi company, and by 1953 he had changed the names of the companies to Nintendo Playing Card Company and Nintendo Karuta Company. That same year he introduced plastic playing cards, which were a runaway hit. Not content to rest on his laurels, he travelled to the United States in 1956, where he met with the United States Playing Card Company, the top card manufacturer in not just the US but the world. He realised that just because a company was physically quite small, it did not mean that it had to be content with being a small player in the market. In 1959 he decided a partnership with the Disney Company to market playing cards with Disney characters on them, and thus opening up an entirely new market: children. This partnership was a great success, and the company sold 600,000 packs of cards in its first year. Nintendo also published books that taught children different card games that they could play with their new cards. In 1962, Yamauchi took his company public and listed Nintendo on the Osaka Stock Exchange Second Division. The resulting infusion of capital allowed investment in a variety of diverse companies, including a rice company, a vacuum cleaner business, and a taxi business. However, most of these turned out to be not very successful. As the 1950s gave way to the 1960s, the markets began to change as playing cards gave way to other pursuits, and the company's revenue started to fall. Its stock price as a result plummeted from 900 yen to 60 yen per share. This downward trend was about to change for Nintendo though. In 1965, the company had hired a maintenance engineer called Gunpei Yokoi. He created a toy called the Ultra Hand, which is a lattice-like design to make an extendable hand that was used to grip, well, anything really, including the 3 colourful balls that came supplied with it. Yamauchi took notice of this new toy and got it ready to be sold in time for Christmas 1970. It was a smash hit and sold over 1 million units. Yokoi was moved into product development, and he immediately came up with an idea to start looking to produce electronic toys, something that few other companies were doing. Nintendo's first venture into electronic games introduced the Odyssey games console, which was produced and marketed in Japan through a partnership between Nintendo and an American company called Magnavox. The Odyssey was the very first games console to be produced, and its success inspired Nintendo to create its own games and a games system to play them on. So in 1975, Nintendo developed the EVR Race, a large arcade-style game that could be played by up to 6 players. More games followed, including Block Fever, Space Fever and Helifire, which were all clones of existing games such as Breakout and Space Invaders. These games were not only a smash hit in the arcades, but were also popular on a number of different home consoles, including the Atari 2600, ColecoVision and Intellivision. In 1980, Nintendo turned its attention more towards the hardware platform, with the intention of creating a handheld games console. Its first foray into the Nintendo Game & Watch, which was a single-game handheld console that also incorporated an alarm clock. Over 43 million Game & Watch devices were sold before production ceased in 1991. The success of the Game & Watch also prompted Nintendo to try its hand at developing a full-sized home console system. This resulted in the Famicom, which was released in Japan in 1983. It sold 500,000 units in just 2 months, but unfortunately its success was marred by faulty chips that resulted in games constantly freezing. An oversaturation of video games that same year created even more trouble for Nintendo, but they rebounded and turned the Famicom into the Nintendo Entertainment System, otherwise known as the NES. The company wisely kept the number of developers down to a small handful, with a view to retaining the intellectual property rights to the games and them. The NES ended up selling over 60 million units between 1983 and 2003. Nintendo continued to innovate, and its success with the Game & Watch led it to introducing the Game Boy, the Game Boy Pocket, and later the Game Boy Advance. The grey screens on the deter buyers, and the Game Boy is the single most popular game system in history, selling over 150 million units. Later came the Nintendo DS, a dual-screen touchscreen handheld game unit with Wi-Fi capability for sharing and interactive gaming. The NES gave way to the Super NES with a 16-bit processor for more gaming power, and then came the N64 with improved graphics and 3D imagery. In 2001, Nintendo came out with the GameCube, a console which used discs instead of game cartridges for vastly improved graphics. Then they introduced the Wii, with its family-friendly interactivity and wireless remote controls. Nintendo is still one of the top video gaming companies in the world, having provided pocket-sized entertainment for 125 years. I hope you enjoyed that history. If you did, please hit the thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for plenty more videos to come.
Thanks for listening to 5 Minute History at www.5minutehistory.com.